Hi, I'm Mr. Eli. Today, I'm telling you a story of betrayal that cuts deeper than business. Because when family turns against you, the revenge isn't just about pride. It's about restoring who you are. When my father died, I lost a parent. When the will was read, I lost a brother. But what I did next, he never saw coming. The day we buried my father, my world split in half. Not just because I lost him, though that pain never really dulls, but because of the smirk on my brother Marcus's face. It was faint, calculated, like he knew something I didn't. That was the first betrayal, and I hadn't even opened the will yet. Marcus was never interested in the family business. He traveled, studied abroad, lived loudly. I stayed home. I worked beside Dad. I earned his trust, his respect, his blueprints. 3 weeks after the funeral, the lawyer read the will. Marcus inherited everything: the company, the estate, our father's vintage car. I got a handwritten note that said, "You don't need my name to build your future." Marcus folded the paper, glanced at me like he'd won, and I smiled, because I realized then he hadn't stolen my legacy. He'd inherited a burden he couldn't carry. I didn't shout. I didn't fight it. I disappeared. I moved 3 counties north, changed my number, and started again. Under a different name, I began consulting, fixing broken development firms, advising quiet takeovers. I built contacts, alliances, I studied, and from a distance I watched Marcus burn through my father's legacy. He rebranded the company, new name, flashy launch, influencer events. But he didn't know the people behind the scenes. He didn't respect the rhythm of concrete curing or the lives behind blueprints. Delays started, then missed payments, then lawsuits. I didn't have to touch anything. I just had to wait. It started subtly. I bought debt, not directly, through holding firms and proxies. I acquired the rights to vendors Marcus owed. I reached out to subcontractors with better offers. Quietly, I was becoming the infrastructure beneath his business. When his supplier vanished mid-project, I was the one they turned to. I said no. That delay cost him a city contract. I watched from my apartment, eating takeout noodles, as news broke that Kessler Development was under investigation for labor violations. I smiled. He was falling into a hole he dug with arrogance and inexperience. 3 former project managers walked out after he berated one on a group call. A video leaked. It spread. Fast. Former employees called him entitled. Investors started whispering. He brought in PR. The crisis got worse. One day, I sent flowers to his assistant anonymously with a card. Every fire starts with a single match. Marcus issued layoffs. He begged a local investor for capital. I knew the man. He owed me a favor. He declined, and that's when Marcus decided to sell. He didn't know the buyer was me. I walked into the building I hadn't seen in years. Marcus sat at the head of the table, unaware. The room stilled when I entered. His jaw tightened. "You?" I sat. "You made it easy." The deal closed in 30 minutes. Just like that, the company he thought he'd stolen was mine. Legally, publicly, quietly. After the acquisition, I didn't fire anyone. Not at first. I walked the halls, sat in on meetings. I listened. The staff was weary, not disloyal, just tired of chaos. I reinstated weekly roundtables, rehired 2 of the project managers Marcus had run off. I returned the company to structure, not showmanship. It didn't take long before morale shifted. People smiled again. Clients returned. Our name, my father's name, began to mean something again. Marcus, meanwhile, vanished, but I wasn't done with him yet. I found Marcus at a lakeside cabin our family used to visit. He looked older, thinner, defeated. I didn't show up with lawyers or press. I came with coffee. He opened the door, saw me, and froze. "What do you want?" "Nothing," I said. "I already have it." He didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, "Was it worth it?" I nodded. "Every second." He slammed the door, and I walked away. Because revenge isn't always about what you take. Sometimes it's about what you rebuild. Back in the city, things moved fast. The old name was restored. Our flagship project, the one Marcus had fumbled, was resecured. The city council trusted me. They always had. I walked into the office one morning and found my father's watch in the top drawer of my desk. No note, no explanation. Someone had kept it safe. I wore it to the groundbreaking ceremony for our new development. As the ribbon was cut, I looked up at the sky and whispered, "We're back, Dad." Not in revenge, in legacy. It wasn't long before the media caught wind of what had happened. I agreed to one interview, just one. They asked me why I bought the company, why I didn't walk away after what Marcus did. I answered simply, because some names deserve a second chance. Some legacies need guardians, not heirs. That quote was on the front page the next morning. And something strange happened. Job applications doubled. Architects, engineers, interns, they all wanted in. I realized I hadn't just taken a company back. I'd restored belief in what it could be. Weeks after the article, I walked into the lunchroom and found a familiar face. Clara, the former financial controller. She had resigned under Marcus, citing irreconcilable differences in ethics. She stood and nodded at me, her voice steady. I'm back, and I brought 3 others with me. She wasn't alone. That day, we held an impromptu staff meeting. I told them the past was behind us, but the values we build from now on, they would define the future. There was applause, but more importantly, there was unity, and that was worth more than any boardroom victory. Months passed. The company's balance sheets recovered. Employees began to invest in each other again. Not just tasks, but trust. One afternoon, I stood at the same window my father used to lean against, watching traffic hum along the street. Clara stepped in, a folder in hand. This just came in, another award nomination, 3rd this quarter. I took it, nodded. Not for me, for them. She smiled. We all know. The greatest revenge, I've learned, isn't payback. It's progress. It's being the person no one thought you could be, even when they share your blood. Success became quiet momentum. We weren't flashy. We didn't chase headlines. We just did good work. Every project finished ahead of schedule. Every client walked away with trust. Every week, our people grew more proud of the badge they wore. One morning, I received a letter, handwritten. It was from an intern. I thought this job would be temporary, but now I want to build something here. Thank you for making this place mean something. That letter hangs on my wall, right next to my father's photo. The company's foundation was finally solid again. One day, as I reviewed site plans, a call came through from the local university. They wanted me to speak at their annual leadership summit. Not about business, about legacy. I almost said no. Then I remembered my father's first lesson. The best builders don't just lay bricks, they inspire architects. So I went. And when I walked into that auditorium, I didn't speak about Marcus or revenge. I spoke about rising after betrayal, about calm power, and how silence can be louder than rage. The applause was quiet, respectful, just the way I like it. The next project wasn't a skyscraper, it was a school, in the neighborhood where my father grew up. When we broke ground, I invited no press, just the community. A boy asked me, "Is this building going to be fancy?" I smiled. Number. It's going to be strong. I walked through the half-finished halls months later and ran my hand along the bricks, and I realized this was the legacy my father hoped I'd build. Not something tall, something that lasts. In the evenings, I sometimes sat in the empty conference room and watched old security footage. Moments with my father, project walkthroughs, office birthdays. They weren't grand memories, but they were ours. I never shared those recordings. They were for me. My reminder of where it all began. One night, I heard footsteps. Clara again. She smiled. "We're closing in record numbers. Thought you'd want to know." I nodded. "Thanks." She hesitated. "You okay?" I looked at the screen. I am now. Because legacy isn't a name on a building. It's the echo of who you were. In the people you've lifted, the board proposed a succession plan. They asked me to name a protege. I said no. Instead, I opened a program, not for one person, for many. A leadership academy built within the company, accessible to interns, coordinators, site leads, anyone willing to learn. Clara called it radical. I called it overdue. Within a year, 4 of our new leads came from within. One of them, Miguel, was once a janitor. Now he oversees $1 million contracts. That's legacy. That's inheritance. The kind you choose. The kind you build. It was Miguel who said it best during an internal seminar. "We don't wear this logo because we work here. We wear it because we believe in what it means." That night, I drove home in silence. Not because I was exhausted, but because I was full. The name on that building, it wasn't just mine anymore. It was all of ours. And I knew I didn't just rebuild a company. I built something that could outlive me. I was walking through the lobby one morning when I noticed something small, tucked into the wall near the entrance. A new brick, engraved. It read, "He never raised his voice, but we all heard him." No signature, no fanfare, just that sentence. I traced my fingers over it, a quiet nod from the people I had led, built with, and believed in. I turned around and saw Clara watching from a distance. She gave a small wave, then disappeared into the crowd of employees arriving for work. And in that moment, I knew. My father's legacy wasn't just restored, it had evolved into something stronger, quieter, unshakable. A future built not with vengeance, but with a vision. You know, people think revenge is loud, explosive, but the most powerful revenge, it's quiet, patient, precise. It doesn't scream, it builds. And one day, when they look up and see everything you've become, while they're still stuck in the past, that's when you know. You didn't just win, you rose. Thanks for listening. Until next time, take care of your legacy. You know, people think revenge is loud, explosive, but the most powerful revenge, it's quiet, patient, precise. It doesn't scream, it builds. And one day, when they look up and see everything you've become, while they're still stuck in the past, that's when you know. You didn't just win, you rose. Thanks for listening. Until next time, take care of your legacy.